Hi, I'm Katie. Welcome to Yoga Awakening and welcome to your practice. So this is a full-length yin yoga practice for nourishing depletion. So you've clicked on this video and perhaps you're feeling a little bit depleted or tired or even exhausted. So I hope that by the end of the class, you will feel a little less depleted and perhaps even a little bit nourished and replenished. So as always, if you don't have any of the yoga props that I'm about to show, that's totally fine. Do the class anyway. Just grab some blankets, maybe a couple of pillows from your bed or your couch. Bring those to your mat or your space, and that will be just fine. We'll also use a block to start. You could skip the block altogether. You'll still be in the same shape. Or you could grab a book from around the house, maybe fold it, wrap it in a towel or a pillowcase, just so it's not quite as hard. And you can use that along with us for our first shape. And then otherwise you'll want that block or maybe two, a blanket, again, or a couple, a bolster. That would be where you use your pillows instead. And then we'll also use a strap just at the end for our shavasana. So you could grab that, or a long scarf would work just fine. So grab whatever you've got around your house, whatever you're going to use, bring it somewhere where you can grab it easily, and we'll get started. So we're going to start right away in our first shape. And I'm going to grab one of my blocks, and I'll bring that just out in front, and we're going to rock the forehead a little side to side, right on the front edge of that block, on its lowest height. So I like to do this one in child's pose with the knees wide. You could bring the knees a little bit closer together. And we'll make our way down, and you could always skip the block and you'll just be rocking your forehead side to side on the mat. But we'll come in to a few moments of stillness first. So arms somewhere out in front of you. Make sure that the hands aren't gripping the mat or pulling you forwards too much. We'll just look for a shape that feels easy and simple, uncomplicated. Bring that space right in between the eyebrows to that edge of the block. Or you might simply draw your attention there with the forehead on the mat. Let's take a moment to first arrive here. So arrive in your space. Maybe you've needed to set aside this time for this practice, and if you're feeling especially depleted, you might be wondering if you can do this whole practice. But know that that's exactly what will be nourishing. We won't be moving very much. We'll spend a little extra time in some of our shapes. So get yourself settled in. Start to feel how you can draw your attention inwards into the body. Maybe just thinking about these four corners of your mat and nothing else. Here you are in this moment. Let's start those gentle rocks. You might even be rocking across the eyebrows. maybe just a hair above. And if the mind is still feeling full of chatter and plans and rumination, just let yourself come right into this movement, settling the mind, focus in on making this movement as slow and as fluid as you possibly can, rocking across the length of the forehead. Let all of your attention come right in to this sensation. And there might even be some tender spots here. So go extra slow if there are. You could pause at any point. But that midpoint right in between the eyebrows is our third eye point, and in acupressure, we think of this one as really nice for calming. So find another couple of spots where you might like to pause for a moment or two as you rock side to side. Let as much of the weight of the head be rested and heavy on that block. Feel how the attention can just pour into this sensation. And then start to find stillness again. We'll pause with our block for a few more moments. Now start to feel into the rest of the body. Maybe you're able to feel the hips get just a little bit heavier. Shoulders, belly. And then we'll lift our head just enough so that we can set that block off to the side if you had it. And we'll find our extended child's pose one more time, this time with the head resting on the mat, or you could certainly bring a folded blanket underneath. Maybe lie on the back if this isn't the most relaxing shape for you. So you always have options to just come into your Shavasana for a few moments if the shape we're in isn't quite feeling right in the body. And here we are already in our first yin pose, sometimes called tadpole pose. Go ahead and soften the shoulders, perhaps widen the arms slightly. I'm going to actually grab my bolster. You could grab a pillow and bring that in for underneath the belly and the chest. Soften the face. You might notice what effects that rocking across the forehead had, perhaps on the muscles of the face. Maybe a more widespread effect through the body or the energy. If you're on your pillow as I am, or your bolster, and you have your head turned to one side, we'll just go ahead and turn it to the other side. Let the body start to sink down a little more completely towards the mat or into your prop. Start to lift the head, press into your hands, and start to walk the hands or the fingertips towards the knees. And let's take a big breath in together, and a big breath out together as you relax the shoulders and soften the belly, maybe sighing it out through the mouth. Feel yourself already tuning in, arriving right here and now into the space of the four corners of your mat. Let's set any props aside. And we'll make our way into our next couple of shapes, and these two we'll just hold very briefly. And I'm coming here into my toe squats. You can see that my toes are curled under, and sometimes I even like to encourage the pinky toe to follow along. That may or may not be possible for you, depending on your feet and your toes. But give it a try. You could wiggle around there a little bit side to side, just feeling that contact of the toes with the mat as much as is possible. We'll be here just for a minute, so if this feels really intense for you, and it very well might, know that you could always lift up here. You could bring a block underneath in between the feet and sit down on that. You could bring the hands out in front of you and take some of the weight of the hips off the heels. Settle in, only 1 minute. So your only task here is to be present. Maybe that's really easy because maybe there's a lot of sensation through the feet, and you can tune right into that. Maybe take some belly breaths to soften and relax as best you can. Let's go ahead and shake the head a little yes and a little no. One more time, a little yes and a little no. And let's switch poses. So now we're coming into the stretch for the tops of the feet, the front of the ankle, and I just have the tops of the feet on the mat. So kind of the opposite direction now. And again, you have the same options here as you did in our first shape. Lifting all the way up, maybe a block underneath, maybe hands forwards. If it feels okay here, you might think about sinking the weight of the hips down into the heels. Feel the pelvis get heavy, the bowl of the pelvis. We'll drop the right ear towards the right shoulder. Use the right hand to guide the head through center, left ear to left shoulder. Left hand guides the head through to center. We'll take our next shape. So make your way into a seat. Bring the hands somewhere behind you, feet out in front, nice and wide. Take some slow windshield wipers. Dropping the knees to one side and then to the other. And think back maybe to that movement we made with the forehead. See if you can find that same sense of fluidity and the slow movement. You might even close the eyes so that you're totally disconnected from what it looks like. Just feel the knees moving, maybe what moves as a result. Allow this to be all you're doing. This is the only thing that you need to attend to. The knees come back through center. And we'll make our way into our next shape, which will be a seated figure 4. You could certainly take this one on the back if you prefer. I like this version though. And we'll start on the right side. So I'll bring my right ankle to cross over the left thigh. And then here is sort of your lever for a sensation. Bringing your left heel closer in or further away. So further away, less sensation. Closer in, you could also bring the hips towards the heel or heel towards the hips. So because this is a yin practice, I invite you to think about finding sensation that feels like 60% of your full capacity. So maybe I could come all the way here and feel a little more. I'm going to back off and find about 60%. And let the shoulders relax, so it's fine if they wiggle up towards the ears a little. Feet are relaxed. So again, that invitation here is not to push or to find your deepest version, but it's instead to think about, how could I nourish myself here? How could I nourish my awareness, my energy, my ability to just be here with the body? That probably means backing off a little bit so that there's not so much sensation that it's hard to be still and present. We'll start to release, so walk the left heel further away from you until you can release the right foot back to the mat. We'll take it right over into our second side. So right heel far enough out so you can find your shape first, and then once again make your adjustments. So heel a little closer, hips a little closer. Close the eyes if you like, or just keep a broad and unfocused gaze. Soften the jaw as best you can. Feel the nourishment in this quiet and stillness. Bring the heel further away from the hips. Allow the left leg to release. And come on up through to your seat. Maybe bring the palms face up this time. Any seat you like. We're just here for a couple of moments. You might take another opportunity for that big belly breath in. So feeling the belly expand. And then that sigh out as you exhale. Shoulders relaxed. Feel the nourishment of just being in this moment. So you might ask yourself, is there anything that I really need or lack? Or rather, can I find nourishment in simply being here, present, with my whole self? So asking, is there anything that's lacking in this moment? And I think you'll find that the more you can tap into that state of being, the more the answer will be no. There's already this richness and fullness, maybe even spaciousness within. Amidst all the other things in life, even amidst hard times or chaotic times, depleting times, you can always just arrive here. Noticing the breath, noticing the body. Open the eyes if they're closed. Bring the hands behind, feet out in front. And one more time, we're taking our windshield wipers side to side. Notice how this soft movement feels the second time around. Can you tap in a little more if maybe the first time the mind still felt distracted? Maybe the movement gets a little bigger and you feel the chest open. And then come through it to center, and we'll set up for our next shape, which will be a wide-legged forward fold. So I really like to have some props for this one. I'm going to use a blanket folded up for underneath the hips. And I think that's often a nice prop to have for just about everybody. You could even sit up on a small cushion or pillow. And then I'm gonna grab a block and my bolster. Otherwise, maybe a couple of pillows. And then legs will come wide into any sort of rough V shape. So if you get here and there's already quite a bit of sensation there through the inner hamstrings, so the inner part of the back of the leg, that tells you to narrow your V. Remember, thinking about that 60%. And then I like to prop up my prop on a block. And then bring the head down to that prop. And I have a little bit of a slippery floor, so I might do it this way. And you could also use your pillows stacked up something like this. And once you've found a nice place to come on down, so prop up your props as much as you need. So that you can really be comfortable here. It might take a little bit of adjusting, as I'm finding today. Yeah, great. So this feels good for me. So find what feels good for you and come on in. See if you can relax the feet and the legs and even the hands wherever they're resting. We'll be here for several minutes. So again, think about that 60% because you'll know that the time will do really more of the work for you than needing to come in really deep right away. Let the spine round if it wants to. You might even find some stretch there along the whole length of the back of the body. Let this forward fold be about surrender. Let the body hang heavy, supported by the props. In Chinese medicine, this whole back line of the body is associated with the water element. And by nourishing the water element, we're nourishing those deep energy reserves. So you might tap into that quality here of nourishing those deep energy reserves. Start to slowly unwind. Use the hands again to guide yourself up. And start to set your props off to one side. And use the hands to the backs of the thighs to gently bring the legs back to any comfortable seat. And our neck shape will be on the back. And I'm going to take that folded blanket that I was sitting on, and I'm going to roll it up just a little bit. My blanket's a little bit soft, so I'm going to roll it maybe a little thicker, because I know I'll be smushing it as I come to lie down on it. But you might think just a few inches, maybe 3, so not too thick of a roll. And we're going to come to lie down on that roll, and it'll be right in the mid-back. So know that you can always adjust that roll once you come down. If it feels like it's creating a little bit too much tension through the low back or the neck, you might need to unroll it a little bit. More on the low back might mean you need to bring the roll a little bit higher. And more discomfort in the neck, maybe you need to bring the roll just a little bit lower. So we'll come on down to that prop, and I like to release the legs all the way out there into my Shavasana. And the roll should be under the shoulders, so the armpit area and shoulders can be free. Open the arms as much as you like. And you want this to be a really subtle sensation. So we're into our first minute or so here, and if it's already feeling like a lot, you know that it's probably going to continue to feel like a lot. So unroll your roll a little bit. One more reminder to soften through the jaw. Feel the weightiness of the legs. Maybe just that slight puffing of the lower ribs with the roll somewhere there underneath you. Slightest broadening of the collarbones and opening of the heart. we're going to come into our last shape before our Shavasana. And you can take your roll away for this one. You might keep it and try that out. We'll bring the soles of the feet to the mat. And then hips over to the right so that knees can fall to the left. So simple recline twist. And I like this little variation with the roll still underneath me, but if your roll is a little bit firmer, you might go ahead and remove it. And then another thing that can be really nice here is to grab your pillow or your bolster and bring that in between the knees. You might try bending the elbows for cactus arms or extending the arms a little further out into a wide T. Feel that top knee really drop into the pillow or the bolster. Letting go of as much gripping through the hips as you possibly can. Feeling the whole body relax. Feel the soft and gentle movements of the belly with the breath. start to unwind out of your twist. Knees back through center. You could just hold your pillow there in between the knees. And then hips over to the left this time so that knees can drop over to the right. Once again, as best you can, let that top knee be heavy too. Let yourself be completely still. Nourishing yourself from the inside out with this quiet and stillness. Unwind or twist. And if you had your blanket roll there still underneath you, like I did, you And set that off to the side. We'll pause here on the back before we set up for Shavasana. Just feeling the spine long now. And then to go ahead and set up for your final shape, we'll have several minutes of complete rest there. I'm going to suggest a particular setup of your props, but of course you could skip the props. You could just come right down onto the back. Maybe you cover yourself up with a blanket if it's chilly in your space. So take it or leave it, but something I really like to do is to bring my pillow or bolster underneath the knees, potentially a little bit higher up into the thighs there. And then I like to take my strap, unwind it, and then with my loop, I'll bring that underneath and around the thighs. Make sure your feet are about hips distance apart, maybe even a little wider, so the strap's not too tight that your feet are close together, your knees and thighs zipped up tight. But then do tighten that strap just enough so that you feel like when the feet relax, there's a feeling of the thighs being completely held and supported. And then go ahead and take your blanket, cover the feet, and then tuck yourself in. So tuck yourself in, starting with the legs, moving on up. Definitely give this a try if you have these props handy. And then you could bring a block underneath the head if you like, if that's not too high for the neck. Maybe just a thin pillow would be nice, or if you have a second blanket, you could do a little blanket roll. And then come on down and start to tuck yourself in all the way up, as high as you can go with your blanket. So that once you get down there into your Shavasana, the whole body feels sort of cocooned and supported. Feel that the legs and the hips don't need to work at all to keep themselves in their position. Close the eyes. Allow any effects of the last few poses of the practice just settle in. Settle into the body. And then start to tune in to that movement of the belly one more time. And see if you can tune into that movement of the breath in the body and the belly without forcing, without trying to make the inhale or the exhale really deep. No need for that today. Instead, just do your best to tune into the natural rhythm, the natural depth of the breath in this moment, whatever that is. Feel the constant cycle and rhythm of the breath. The inhale leading to the exhale. And the exhale leading right back to the inhale. I invite you here to imagine that this breath is flooding the body and the being with nourishment. The breath itself nourishing the being. So however you might visualize that, maybe imagining as though the air were coming in to the body and dispersing throughout into every nook and cranny. You imagine it as water flooding through into all the limbs. Maybe light, taking the light in. Feeling it beam in the being. Perhaps noticing here there is so little that you need to find that nourishment already within. Something as simple as feeling your own breath replenishing. Your own breath restoring. Your own awareness guiding you back to this feeling of calm and fullness. Inhale to take that nourishment in, and exhale to feel it spread. Spreading through the whole being. Make your way onto one side of the body, coming over into a fetal pose. Use your hands to guide yourself up. And you can even keep your blanket there tucked in around the legs. I'm just going to remove my strap, and you can do the same. Tuck your blanket in for one final moment. Draw your hands to heart center. The light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste.